Sherwin, if you're not familiar with all his work, is the owner of Acceleration Performance, as well as Total Rehabilitation Sports Injury Clinic and the Small Ball Training Systems, and is a physical development specialist for basketball players, particularly guards. Sherwin, how's it going, man? It's great to chat with you.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm pumped to be on the show. Thank you for having me. So, yeah.
I want to go headfirst off the deep end. There's
Okay.
something that you posted on Instagram one time that caught my attention, which made me very, very curious to really know why you do what you do, but also why you don't do certain things. I know that you had a small stint coaching with the USB men's basketball team at University of St. Boniface, and you had said that you have stayed away from being a coach and coaching basketball for many reasons, and you've always just been a trainer. Why is it that you've stayed away from coaching in comparison to training and working with players in the way that you do?
Oh man. Wow, that's a tough question. I like it. But basically what my uh I don't want to call it a fear, but my greatest frustration with coaching was personality management. And I was never really strong, or I felt like I was never really strong at that. And then in my mind, it would have been a cascading effect if I had gone into something that I didn't love. So I wasn't very strong in personality management, which means then that I wouldn't be able to get the most out of players on the team. So that's why it stayed away. There's nothing more frustrating for me uh, than getting onto the floor and being able to coach only 3 or 4 players that could respond to the way that I coach or the way that I develop information or deliver information. And then the rest, maybe there's another 3 or 4 that were 50-50 on it. And then there's another 4 that were totally, no, this is not my jam. And so I didn't know, or I didn't want to explore that. I did it for a short bit when I was younger. When I was, in my early 20s, I did some high school basketball coaching, and uh, it, and right then and there, I knew. I think I did about 2 or 3 years, and I thought maybe that it would snap for me, it would click, that I would get it, but I never really got it. And that's why I have the utmost respect for coaches in doing what they do, because of that, to get the most out of each player. Even though the delivery of information, it might be different for each group within your team. So that was my big thing. That's why I stayed away from it, because I felt like I couldn't do that for them. I would be doing them a disservice in their player development, their IQ development, everything about team basketball I could not do for them. But when it came to the strength and conditioning, if you even think about it, you're like, well, you are doing some level of personality management when you're doing the training aspect of basketball. Yeah, sure I am. But for the most part, most of the athletes that I train, they chose to be there. So if whereas on a team, they necessarily picked me as their coach. They just wanted to play basketball. So with the strength and conditioning aspect of basketball, when they come to me, it's like, this is my way. This is the way I'm going to do it. I know I can get you better at basketball, perform better, etc. So that's why I loved the strength conditioning aspect of it, and I stayed away from the coaching. But I do have to put this in. After that short coaching stint, it opened up my eyes. Like, I was amazed at how responsive athletes can be. And sure, I did have to adjust some of my delivery to some players. but to see the reward at the end, the reward being that all of these athletes coming together to chase one goal alongside with you, it was worth that risk of being ultra frustrated or not getting the goal that we wanted to get. So, but yeah, that was always my model for, oh geez, I guess it could have been 20 years. I don't coach. I don't ever want to coach. And then now I'm like, wow, it's rewarding. So
It's definitely not easy, right? For any basketball fan or person who's watched The Last Dance, for example, seeing the way that someone at the highest level, like Phil Jackson, could handle some of the most conflicting personalities in MJ, Rodman, Pippen, and all the other role players who maybe didn't get as much credit as they deserved, or people didn't really remember them. To see the way in which a coach, whether it's in the NBA or university or high school, can handle personalities is that's a lot of what it is. And I remember one of the first times that I talked with, I think it was with Coach Dobie from the Manitoba Bison's football team. I asked him about, like, I didn't really understand the dynamic of being a coach and seeing in universities, especially when you don't really see them making tons of decisions. You just see them there and they say the speech at the beginning of the game and at the end of the game, and the rest is all taken care of by all the other coaches. But he said to me, he said, think about this. They have to manage everybody. They have to trust, like a CEO, all these other people. And that is such a difficult skill to develop that a lot of people don't think about. And they see, oh, the CEO does nothing. He just sits around and scratches his bum all day. Well, no, they have the greatest risk. So you talk about that frustration. It's almost like it's almost like being a CEO. That's what I think of when you talk about this decision.
yeah, it totally was. And really I only knew the player perspective for the longest time. And again, that was me just being closed-minded to the fact that there are different perspectives in basketball, whether it's from the player, from the coach, from the medical staff, from every single person on there has their own unique perspective. And I only knew it through one lens. And there were so many in that short time with St. B. There were so many things that I had learned. It was like, and I heard this before. I heard X, Y, and Z from my coach back at my UAW days, and I'm like, I never understood what he meant by that. This actual one. So when we played Providence College, now the average loss margin for Providence for us all season under their previous coach was about 40 points. I took over and we had 2 practices. We didn't have an offensive or defensive scheme. And all I could tell them was, look, we have more heart. We are in the best position possible because they think that we're garbage because they've beat us 40 times, 3 or 4 times out of the year. So we're in the best possible position to surprise win. We had the lead for the entire game, as much as 12 points. It wasn't until the last 2 minutes of the game where we lost the lead and we lost the game, and we lost by 6. The players on the team, and I remember I'm like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing X, Y, and Z? And it was a matter of they didn't know how to win. And I remember my coach saying that. That's Bill Wedlick back in the day. You guys just don't know how to win. And I'm like, what do you mean? Yes, I know how to win. We get the ball in the bucket. We pass the ball out. We run our plays. That's how we do it. But it was deeper than that. It was more like you need composure. You don't need to go for steals towards the end of the game. You just play positional defense. You stay together, a cohesive unit. All these other things that what I know now he meant, instead of, hey, I'm going to go try and dribble through 5 guys and go for the hoop, for the bucket, because this is how we're going to win. we're going to score more points. We're going to steal the ball whenever they have it. But it was never really about that. It was just being composed and being able to protect the lead that we had instead of trying to build on it. So that was mind blowing. So a little aha moment. I get you now, coach. That's what you meant, and all these other things. But it was crazy. I'll never forget that particular lesson. Is in sometimes teams just don't know how to win, and then I think about, I thought the Denver Nuggets weren't going to win this year because they've never been to the finals, but they've been in the playoffs, deep into the playoffs enough times that they knew how to win. So stuff like that. So now it's going to stay with me for the rest of my life. And whenever I coach, if I ever coach again, which I am. So
Yeah, that's such a powerful lesson about the knowledge of a teacher and really why their experience is invaluable, because you think it's as simple as put the ball in the basket. Hilariously enough, when I was the first year I ever played organized basketball, I played grade 7. I was in grade 7 at St. Maurice, and we were playing developmental basketball. So very, very low level. And we were all guys who were hyped up on watching NBA, as most kids in junior high who play basketball are. And we asked our coach, who was just a teacher that probably drew the shortest straw to lead us, Coach, what plays are we going to run? That's what one of my best friends asked. And he said to him, how about put the ball in the basket? Because he had no response to even understand what it was going to take for us to lead ourselves to win and to get better. And you're right. It's not as simple as just, I'm going to dribble. I'm going to take on 5 guys. I'm going to try to go for a steal every game. It's not like you're playing NBA 2K. Like, there's so much more in-depth layers that are required to win. So people will see the success of the Denver Nuggets and say, oh, well, they've just had the MVP. Or you look at the Warriors and say, well, you have the MVP, you have this, you have that. But then when you actually look at examples like the 2016 finals, and that's why I think part of why I love your videos, like the breakdowns, is because you're looking at the deeper layers of like, well, why is this player good? Or why did this work? Or why may this not work? And taking those components and combining them is what really makes a strong coach, or really, it also makes you understand basketball at a deeper level than just they're better than them and that's it.
yeah, totally. All those things, yeah, just being able to peel back all the layers. It certainly helped me to, on a player development perspective, and being able to show like the nuances of a particular move or a particular scenario, instead of just like, yeah, hey, look, you're gonna rub off of this screen, and then if this happens, do this. If this happens, do that. Now there's so many, like you're saying, the layers of it, where you get to see it unfold as a player development, and you share that knowledge to players, so that now they get into the scenario. Okay, so this player is moving this way, this player is now shifting up, I have this option, I have this option, or another option, as opposed to do this, do that, or that, where it's very just linear. It's not 3-dimensional or 4. It's and so it's really helped me develop, or being able to give more as a player development coach to the players that I train. So
What was it that made you want to train and work with guys individually?
um well, it's going to seem really cliche, but I've played basketball my whole life. I've been immersed in the culture since I was a kid, from my brother, my mom, my cousins, my uncle. So surprise, surprise, the classic Filipino thing. And I think I just wanted to do something that was involved, that still, even though I can't play at the level that I once could, I still wanted to be able to share, to be able to do something with it. And so I think that's what happened. And interestingly, you know, court sessions, skill development work is so massive right now. It's an insane business. Like there's tons of skills coaches out there. There's tons of programs to develop your skills. I remember a handful of my first clients ever to do skill work coupled with physical development work. There's like Ryan Roper, Adam Dobriansky, Irfan Nashajpour, all these people where we were doing skill work before skill work was a thing. But even then, I was doing skill work with Bill Wedlake, the team. We always had skill sessions, but nobody ever really broke it down the way it's broken down now. So it's just total insane advancements in the industry that, you know, skill sessions have become so much more intricate than just, hey, let's get some reps up. So, but yeah, to answer your question, I just wanted to be involved in basketball, do something that I loved instead of, you know, collecting a paycheck, which you can do anywhere. You know, I could easily go, you know, get a job at, I don't know, Macadon or something, and then still love basketball. But, you know, am I really truly living the life that I wanted to live? Do the stuff that I really want to do? So I can't complain about the job that I have. I get to train some of the best basketball players in the province. I get to play basketball still because I am very hands-on with the athletes that I train. So then now it's, you know, I'm getting paid to play basketball, but in a different sense. So it's fun. It's a great job. It's certainly not for everybody. I know that I'm going off on a tangent here. I don't know if
No.
I
Please
should
keep
cut
going. Keep
it.
going.
The This profession isn't for everyone. Now the stuff how I run, and this is just the sort of the natural way the industry goes. You know, I'm working split shifts every single day. So I, you know, train people in the morning, court at night, court in the morning, strength training at night. It's just the way people are available, right? So especially when schools in, you know, the school season is going on, or just school in general, kids won't come until the evening. More of the adults, or if the pros are still here, they'll train in the morning. So then I got to be available in the morning. Then I'm done at, you know, around noon until 3, and then I get the after school special until the evening. So, you know, if people are interested in being this, you have to accept that, you know, you're gonna train people at 6 a.m. till about 10, 11, 12. You'll have a midday break, and then you got to train people again 3 on to at as late as 10 o'clock at night. So
Yeah, it's the the way the business has evolved in the industry of being a coach who works with physical development and training skills and all these things. I find it so fascinating because it's not like an advertised job, like you said. It's not just oh, here's my resume and I'm going to go on Indeed and just empty the clip on all these applications and hope one person says yes to me to give me the secure paycheck. What you're doing is a lot more difficult than what most people do, which is why it's not for everybody. Because for some people, yeah, it's not easy to wake up at 6 a.m. and to be up till midnight and then have to have midday naps or switch your schedule on a moment's notice or have to consider all the clients you're taking on. But was it where you are now? Was it something you could have envisioned when you first started doing it? Or how has that evolved?
when I first envisioned, you know, doing the strength and conditioning as just generally, uh, really I was trying to create a 9 to 5, not truly understanding the business of it. Because really, when I went through the whole university scene, you take your human A&P, biomech, principal strength conditioning, all of this stuff. Then you do your electives. You had to take intro to business and English lit, all that stuff. Intro to business taught me zero about this industry, and it wasn't until I one of my gym idols, the guy that I looked up to, that I wanted to be like, Joe DeFranco. He had a business of strength conditioning seminar in New Jersey. So I flew out, met with him, chatted with him, down to earth dude, told me the ins and outs of the industry. This is what I experienced. This is what's going to kill you. And if you want to still do it, then this job is for you. If you don't want to do it, stop now, get out, because you're not going to have, like I was saying, that 9 to 5. You got to be available when people are available. They don't make themselves available for you, not until you are. Oh, you train Matias Bueno, who is multimillionaire, and he can come in whenever, and you're my only client because I charge you an arm and a leg. It's not like that. 90% of the people that I train aren't athletes. They are the general pub. And then I have my 10%, which is the rest of the athletes that I post about, that make it fun for me. But not everybody, we do get some trainers that come in, do their practicums and stuff like that, or just pick my brain on, what is it like? How do I do this? And they think that it's just one thing. You do basketball. It's not. You're not going to say no to, again, I'll say Matias is coming in looking for training. Hey, Matias, I'm going to charge you $85 an hour. Oh, what is it that you wanted to do? I'm just doing it for just general health. Sorry, if you do basketball, then yeah, I can train you. No, you're going to say yes. You can change this person's life. You can help them. So it's sort of a misconception that, when you title yourself a basketball physical development specialist, that you're that and only that. Sure, I title myself that, but I'm helping other people as well. So
That's yeah, the beginning part of the way you describe how you get started, and really that interaction with Joe DeFranco. Like, if this is for you, keep going. Here's the pitfalls. If it's not, leave now. I think that crossroads is one of the most difficult for people who, whether they want to be entrepreneurs or don't know if they have what it takes. That's one of the most difficult jumps you can ever take, because there's no guarantee you reach the other side. And most people will opt not to do it because it's the path of least resistance, and they'd rather just stick to what they know. So the fact that you took that jump led you to a place that maybe you didn't think that it would be exactly the way it is right now, or you didn't know the opportunities that would come from training people, or the way that basketball has grown in Manitoba, or even with like the Sea Bears coming to the CEBL, for example. That's something that maybe some of the young athletes you train can't really appreciate, the dormant period of time between when there was last pro basketball in Winnipeg and now. So I think some of these opportunities make it even more exciting, along with the fact that, yes, there is the general public that you can train and people's lives you can impact without them necessarily having to be a CEBL player or going to U Sports or whichever league it may be.
Yeah. A little bit more on what makes, and I don't want to say just me. If you have somebody that does this full time, it's essentially, I'm describing them. Sort of another reason why this profession is not for everybody is that your brain never stops. So, and when I say never stops, that it never stops thinking. It never stops thinking of ideas. It never stops learning. When I'm at home after work, so I'll be home. I get home at 10 o'clock sometimes. I'll eat. Then I'm on the computer or on my phone looking at new ways to, figuring out what's the in thing in vertical jump or speed development for basketball or skill development. How can I, take bits and pieces, learn from the best on my off time? It's not like, hey, you get to go home and then you get to watch TV. You get to hang out with friends, go to movies. Sure, you can do that. But then what that means is somebody else is doing what you are supposed to be doing. And then that's it. So it's a wild profession. And again, yeah, it's not for everybody. I had a lot more that I wanted to tell you, but it can be really off-putting to share the every bits and pieces of how bad it can get. So, I mean, I think that enough right there. That's some pretty big things to consider if you want to be a basketball physical development specialist. There's a lot more to it than just training basketball players.
The same way that a coach, it's a lot more than just drawing up plays and putting the ball in the basket.
Yeah, exactly. Why can't you put the ball in the hoop? The play is supposed to work. So
that's the name of being an entrepreneur. And even there's two clips actually that come together so perfectly to relate to what you're talking about. There's a clip I saw one of my coaches when I played football share the other day of Andy Reid being interviewed during the offseason. And he was talking about, how he's been a coach for, I don't know, 40 some years. And he was saying, yeah, we're on the plane. I'm looking at plays and doing these things. And it just comes naturally to me. I really just enjoy doing it. Some people read novels. I read plays. And it ties into this clip I saw from Jerry Seinfeld on Howard Stern, where he says to Howard Stern, I'm never not thinking of material. I'll look at the bumper stickers on the car. Can I do something with that? Can I make this funny? And Howard Stern responds with, that sounds torturous. And then Jerry Seinfeld says, it's the same thing with kids, marriage, working out, not eating the foods you want to eat. You go, geez, I got to do this again. And then he summarizes it beautifully in saying, find the torture that you're willing to put, you're comfortable with in life, and you will do well. Finding something that to someone else may seem like torture. Man, you go home and you can't stop looking at plays. You can't stop looking at speed development, vertical jump. Well, it's just what you enjoy, right? Someone else may not enjoy it, but that's the torture that you're comfortable with to someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. That's well said, well put by Seinfeld. I never heard that. That's awesome. But that's exactly it. And that's why I think it worked for me, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get to where I need to be, which is circling back to what I had envisioned. Not at all. I thought it would just be like just a few months here and there part-time doing basketball, and then the rest doing other things. But now the basketball demand, with the growth of it throughout the country, the world, it's skyrocketed. Again, I still say that, I majority of my clientele, general public, but the basketball registration year round has grown exponentially. So, and there are times that I'm thinking in my head, oh, enough. But then I can't anyways, because I'm like, just naturally, I want to help as many as I can. So
I wanted to ask you about the mindset that you have when you develop athletes, because I know that there's kind of a circle. I mean, the basketball Manitoba community is quite small, but there's a circle of people that have worked together or played together or coached together that carry a mindset, and I know that the root of it comes from yourself, from having worked out at Acceleration Performance myself through a football program and having connected with guys like Matt Koenig or Darcy, and seeing the ways in which people have started to really implement more than just be big and bulky and you'll be good at basketball or you'll be stronger than everybody, but functional movement, strength, mobility. How did you develop a mindset around placing a higher importance on things that maybe people wouldn't really think of at first when it comes to what they can do to be a better basketball player?
uh well, you know what? To be honest, and let's uh I want to give Matt quite a bit of credit for sort of showing me different ways in training athletes. Now, Matt had been a student of mine, and he was originally employed by me. And the way I had, and again, my mentor being Joe DeFranco, he was very strength based. Strength equals power development equals speed equals everything else that you need. So if you can think about a pyramid, strength is the foundation, and then everything else layers on top. So if you don't have you ever seen a weak, fast person before? No,
No.
they all fast people, sprinters. Let's use them as the example. Are relatively strong. So, but you've never seen somebody so weak, but they're very fast. So that was sort of the basic science behind why strength was the number one thing. Now, not to say that strength isn't the number one thing, but Matt had showed me sort of another way to approach physical development, incorporating new ideas, new things. And that's the evolution of being a strength and conditioning specialist. If you stay with stuff that worked in the 70s, then you should stay in the 70s. It's always evolving. It changes all the time. Whatever is new now is going to be old in 10 years time and be like, whoa, you guys are doing that stuff. We're doing this now. We're like rotating our trunks 360, and we're not getting a spinal fracture or being paralyzed because we can now do this. It's so it's always ever evolving. So I'm happy that he had the sense to he took my course, certified, and then had the sense to further his development. And then we reconnected, and he started showing me these other ideas on how you can get this, this, and this. Now, if you notice this movement, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So I give him a lot of credit in showing me different ways of doing things. So now we've incorporated a lot of, so I still have that strength development. I still want athletes to be as strong as possible, but it is not the focus of their program. The focus is to be a better basketball player, not a heavier lifter. So we don't have a powerlifting program for basketball players per se. It's got some powerlifting elements to it in that, we do squat, we do deadlift variations. We don't do the traditional deadlift. We do bench press because we got to build up their strength. But then now we add a lot of mobility and training in deeper ranges, different obscure movement patterns, so that the body isn't, if caught in a weird position, it's not a foreign movement that now all of a sudden the body breaks down or it shuts down, and then now you're open up to injuries, the risk of it anyways. So that's sort of the mindset that I had initially going in, is just make them strong as hell. And then now it's evolved to strong, mobile, and explosive. So, but what's unique, and again, I'll make this really quick. What's unique for any undersized basketball player, there is an element that if you see some of the top strength coaches, like PJF Performance, he's solid in what he does. Mr. Doing It, Mr. Do It Moving. They emphasize a lot on, you don't need to chase numbers. When it comes to the undersized guard, though, unfortunately, in my opinion, you do, because you have to make up for the lack of height somewhere else. So if you are getting posted up by somebody who's 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", and you don't have the strength requirements to be able to stand your ground, then you're not going to play next level basketball. You're just a liability. So you have to be able to be strong, generate force, all that stuff. So when it comes to the younger or the undersized guard, we do numbers chase to an extent because we need their strength up. When it comes to somebody that's like 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", well, then you don't really need to number chase. Sure, you have a progressive overload, but you don't really need to have to focus on that so much because they have the strength, the length. Sorry, they have the length. They have the height to be able to compete and figure out different ways to compete. So, yeah, that's sort of the mindset. It shifts with different people.
The first thing that came into my mind when you were talking about undersized guards, that's actually funny enough where I was going to go next. I remember when I first showed up to Acceleration to do Mike's program in 2018 when I worked out there in the off season. I remember we had a conversation and I was asking you about something with football players. I can't remember if I asked you about who you think the best player in the NFL is, but I remember you saying to me at the time, of course, this is 2018, you said, I think Russell Wilson is the best quarterback in the NFL because pound for pound, he has such a disadvantage of being shorter and all these other things that he has to make up for with his strength, his mobility, his quickness. And ever since, guys like Kyler Murray and other shorter quarterbacks have been drafted into the NFL, but you see that evolution. And you look at how in the past, if you were short, it's like, forget it. You're a liability. You're dead in the water. Who would want you on their team? But now Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson and these guys are not very big and tall, but yet somehow they're still able to use their athletic ability. And obviously in basketball, yes, height matters way more than in football, of course. But at the same time, I was going to ask, do you think that your experience with playing university basketball and maybe being shorter than the average guard has helped you have that perspective as to how to take guys who are maybe not 6'5" to a higher level than maybe they once thought because of knowing the things you had to do to get around guys who had more physical advantages than you?
Yeah, absolutely. The way whatever I had learned in high school, through my high school coaches, the university scene, playing against taller, stronger, more faster players, I 100% share that or give that energy that I had back then. And I can give you this, I can make you this, I can, whatever the case is, where because it's a lived experience. So when people say that, oh, you'll get posted up, they don't know what it feels like to get posted up at that level, unless they made it and they're my height. But there's only like not very many do make it. And then what's required for you to be able to compete at that level when you are that size. It's really more so, it's not the programming, it's not anything that's unique per se. It's the mindset that has to be unique, and that mindset I give to the athletes when they train. So I think the person that I thought I had a mindset that was wild. That's like just you're bonkers. Uh, one of the one of the best point guards that Winnipeg, Manitoba has ever produced, uh, Jared Ogunbemi Jackson. When I see him work, it is next level. He's and I mean this in the most respectful way possible, the most positive ways possible. He is crazy. I look at him. I view my position with him, working with him, is more I regulate what he does. Because if I don't, he is working. He is of that mindset that he is going to work 1,000 times harder than anybody else in the room. So I didn't have to give that to him from what I had. He had a next level, which again, and him being only 5'10, 5'11, playing pro overseas for how many years, and not just playing overseas, but he's killing it overseas. That that is crazy. And I wish that, and wow, this could be content for me, is if I were to film our training session, how it looks, it would be like, oh, like he just keeps on going. He wants to keep on going. And I'm like, no, no, chill, because as a basketball player, you have mileage. You want to control your mileage, especially when you get older. So it's not like we're going out and we're doing sprints and we're doing jumps and we're doing heavy squats. It's all controlled. We have to keep it so that we prolong his career now, as opposed to when he was 19, 20. Okay, let's look at jumping higher. Let's look at being quicker. So, but yeah, that's sort of the what the mindset that I go into when training athletes.
There's a quote that Tim Grover has, and there's two quotes that tie into exactly what you're describing. And
Yes, yes. Remind me after you're done telling me this quote. I have a very small Tim Grover story.
okay, perfect. Yes, I wanted to get to this part asking about Tim Grover because he being exposed to his content and his work has just been insane. I'm super grateful to have come across it from other athletes I played with and knew in sports. And he says, when people call you crazy, say thank you, because that's the highest compliment that someone can give you. And the other quote that ties into it is when he talks about Kobe Bryant's injuries and saying, when you get injured or you get hurt or you fail or something, what you build after that, it's not going to be the same. You're not just trying to get back to where you were. You have to become stronger than you once were in order to truly rebuild what has been broken. Again, tying into the mindset, I know that Matt has shared from him and I talking with something as simple as an ankle injury. Like people just do rehab until their ankle is back and they're like, sweet, I'm done. And it's like, no, 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 no. You keep doing it to make it stronger than it was before. So that way it's not just I just don't want my ankle to hurt. It's like you are creating and establishing a layer of prevention that will go beyond what your ankle could handle before. Now, yes, please. I would love to hear a Tim Grover story.
It's a small story, but so when I first opened up acceleration, that was 2009. We got some pretty solid funding from from the government. You get new entrepreneur, you get grants and all that stuff. So I'm like, oh, this is cool. What am I going to do with this? I got some money. We have our business up and running. We have time because we don't have many clients. I need to expand my knowledge. So I'm going to do some professional development stuff. So I've always been a fan of Tim Grover. I've followed him since he first took over MJ's program, doing the hustle, where he was just like, as he explained in the first dance, where he just kept on sending letters and just being persistent. And then they're like, okay, fine. So I'm like, okay. I look it up. He just opened up the attack facility, attack basketball facility in Chicago. So I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh shoot, this is perfect. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call him. I'm going to pay him whatever money he says within reason. I'm going to stay there for a week and I'm just going to shadow him. I want him to mentor me. So I call, no answer, leave a message. I email, no reply. I call again. I'd probably do this for about, I think probably, if I remember correctly, I'm going to exaggerate because it makes the story that much better. Probably do this for a month. And again, following in the footsteps of what he did. Finally, I call, he answers. Hi, my name is Sherwin Vasallo. I'm a strength conditioning specialist in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I'm looking to speak to Tim Grover because I just have a couple of questions. Tim here. I pass out for maybe like half a second. This is my idol on the phone. I'm like, hi, yes, okay. My name's Sean. I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I want you to be my mentor. Can I just like go there for a week? I'll pay you to hang out with you every day, just to study, observe. I just want to learn from the best. We don't do that. And hangs up. And I was like, they say never meet your heroes. I wish I had never done that. So because that killed me for a long time. Tim Grover, the guy, this my hero, just said no and hung up. Didn't even give an explanation. But I respect it because that's just the way it is. You know, he probably wants to do it now, but back then, no. Maybe if I had Kobe, MJ, Dwayne Wade, all the top guys, maybe I'd be the same way. Maybe he's just too busy. All that stuff. Maybe he thought it was a fanboy. But anyways, that's my small Tim Grover story. I connected with him for about 3 seconds.
I mean,
So,
the funny thing about you mentioning this story is how things have changed since then. You're saying, oh, you probably want to do it now. It's like, well, I think people from that era, that age, have started to realize the importance of and the opportunity to monetize your knowledge in ways that don't require being with people physically. I know that he has done online programs and mentorships tons of times, written books. And I think it's that evolution of your mindset rather than I only want to stick to XYZ thing. But in him just saying no and hanging up, that also makes me think of one of the things he shared, one of the messages he shares, has it in his books and also has posted on Instagram and social media, where he talks about, he's like, no is a complete sentence. When people have to come up with an explanation and a laundry list of things, it means they don't actually believe in that answer. And so when you say, oh, no, hang up, it's like, well, he's a man of his word. The things that he's saying and sharing with other people, he absolutely believes and puts into practice. So yes, he knows tons about basketball. And for someone like yourself, I almost knew instantaneously, like if you're a basketball trainer and you work with people, you're obviously going to know who Tim Grover is. And you're absolutely going to want to learn from him, or you do learn from him, or you've read his books, or you've done these things. But at the same time, it is applicable to entrepreneurship in general. And it's not just oh, well, you have to live in this little bubble of basketball, because now speaking engagements he does, the books he's written, so many people that probably don't even like basketball too have actually found it useful. So I think that's why, in seeing the work that you've done and the content you've shared and the people you work with, it shows that evolution of the industry from this is very, very secluded for only a few people, and I only work with basketball people, and that's it. It's, oh, I can do more, I can impact more, and that is going to be such a win-win for me and my clientele.
yeah, big time now. I also have, I came from that era, that same era of um, what's mine is mine, you know, my property. So I have learned in the last few years about, you know, the abundance mindset, and that, you know, it's better to build the bridges, obviously, than to burn them. So now, if, you know, I've had a ton of people message me on Insta or email me just asking questions, ideas, whether they're basketball, whether they're, entrepreneur type questions. And I no longer, I don't do the the Tim Grover and hang up. No, it's a lot. It's better. And besides, like, I always, uh, I had in my head for a long time my legacy, what my legacy is. Do I want my legacy to be that guy that always said no, that never shared info, that uh, essentially that was an asshole, or somebody that was always willing to help others? And so I've always wanted to be that. So then why not it be what I do? Because it's not easy. It's not easy to do what I do. Having a business, a brick and mortar business, even, that is tough as hell. But if somebody wants to give it a shot, I'll help you. I'm not going to give you any financial help, but I'll give you as much knowledge as I can to help you develop your dream. But again, only a handful of people will make it. It's really hard. And I started way back then when rent was like $7 a square foot. You'll never find anything that cheap now. So then imagine if somebody wants to give it a shot now, they need all the help they can get, because it is way too expensive to try and start something now with the equipment, the rent, the taxes, and all that stuff that you can think of. So the abundance mindset is it's way sweeter for anybody. And again, selfishly, for the legacy that I want to leave behind, I would rather be remembered for somebody that helped the community instead of was just that guy. So
That's such a, I'm honestly really glad that you shared that, because I think it takes swallowing a lot of pride to change your mindset, to admit that the thoughts you had before were wrong, or they weren't necessarily how you should approach things or the best way. And especially when people are older or they're not growing up in the age of abundance and that wasn't their environment, it's not easy to approach business with the mindset that you can give yourself to other people and share, and also still receive in the end without worrying about, well, is someone going to steal my secrets? Is my business going to get closed down? How am I going to survive? I can't let other people know what I'm doing, because then what's going to happen is people are just going to rip me off and crabs in a bucket. And I think honestly, sometimes that can be a problem in sports in Winnipeg in general. And maybe that's a podcast deep dive for another day. But when Matt is actually someone who talked about this with me when we did our podcast episode about having an abundance mindset, and how when you create, you have this category of one, then you no longer have to worry about what Sally and John and Sarah are doing. You just worry about yourself, and you can still give what you have without worrying about it being a negative thing.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, admittedly, and honestly, yeah, Matt was the guy that talked about the abundance mindset, because at that time, I was really stuck in protecting what I had. But then he said, there's another way. And again, it's just another one of those things that for a young guy, decently wise, I'll stop there with that. So now he doesn't have a big head. But he showed me a lot of cool things uh, that make for a better trainer, a better entrepreneur, and overall just being a better person. So and I like to uh, sort of surround myself with people like him. where, you know, that negative energy doesn't really sort of cross anymore. Had a lot of negative energy, and it's just not cool. It's just not, it doesn't do anything for you, you know. So it's a much more rewarding experience to be that way than the latter, or reverse that. So
Before we go, I wanted to ask you, Sherwin, if you were to give advice to someone who was in their 20s and wanting to be entrepreneurial with training athletes in any sport, what advice would you give them?
oh man, so I know that you would we had chatted about this, and you know that was sort of like the closer, and I thought of, you know, different ways to answer it, but I think, and I never thought of anything, so I'm just going to do it right from the heart. I think the biggest thing, for me, answer the question again, so that way, you know, we can edit it.
So if you were to look back and give advice to someone who was in their 20s who wanted to do something like what you've done, what would be the biggest piece of advice that you could give them?
The biggest piece of advice is, and I wish I had told my somebody told me when I was starting this, is that you have to wholeheartedly believe in what you do. You can't have a shred of doubt in opening up a business or starting a different kind of venture, as wild as it might be, as weird as it might seem. And again, it just sounds so cliche, but you have to just believe wholeheartedly in what you do, that this is going to work. That alone, outside of the little bits and pieces, is what's going to make it successful. The belief that it is the thing that people need, the gap that's missing in people's lives, and then the rest sort of falls into place. um i I thought opening up a strength and conditioning thing, because the business before me had already done it. What can I do differently? How am I going to be better than them? In fact, there was another business that opened around the same time as me, and that the Pioneer company offered to pay to buy them out because they saw them as a threat. And then they saw me and didn't see me as a threat. But I believed in myself. I believed in what I did. I did have a ton of doubt, and that hurt me in 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 my development as a as an entrepreneur. And the hurt came through as dollars, not so much as I stopped. I didn't want to do it anymore. Um, but this is going to sound mildly petty, but again, it was of that era. So they didn't see me as a threat. They thought I wasn't going to make it anyway. And they verbally said this to other people and to me, because I did have a connection with them. They are now closed. So bottom line is, if you believe in what you do, that is all you need, and it will work, because you're not going to stop. You're not going to give up, because you believe in it so much that, you know, when the time is tough, you just work harder to get it back to where it needs to be. And that's it. So
Sherwin, I want to thank you for having been on today's episode. I really loved getting to chat with you and understand more your mindset around being a trainer, working with athletes, and being an entrepreneur, because it's not easy, but it's a hell of a lot more rewarding and a lot less risky than if you sold just so you could have comfort.
yeah, yeah, totally. I would never change the path that I took, for anything. I think I've learned so much. It's shaped me into the person that I am now, and it's created a bunch of not created, but yeah, it's created a bunch of friendships that I have that I value big time. So, but awesome. Thank you again so much for inviting me to the show. It was fun. It was fun.